The vibrations where I'm sitting are unbelievable. But let me move on from something you said, Norman. You said about people speculating constantly on comparing Muhammad's fighting to what it would, trying to figure out how you would match up against other fighters. And what is this computerized fighting thing? I saw you on the screen the other night. I thought it was you for a minute. I actually thought it was you fighting Marciano in one of those computerized fights.
I want to say right here on nationwide TV, looking right into the cameras, anybody who's connected with the computer thing, Mary Warner, who originated it, I thought it was really serious. I thought they really had something accurate, but it's not real. And I'm a man who speaks his piece, and I'm not the kind who will tell a story. There's no such thing as a computer that can take Joe Louis's record and Jack Dempsey's, and you feed it, and it tells you what would have happened the night they fought. How this all started, this Mary Warner from Miami came up with the wild idea. He was the greatest heavyweight champion in history. And the black people look at this as been a racist thing because they got all the great fighters together. And Jack Johnson, he wasn't good enough to get to the finals. Jack Johnson, Nat Fletcher, Ring Magazine, who's the Bible of boxing, will tell you that Jack Johnson was one of the greatest. You may hate to admit it because he's black, but he was. And after Jack Johnson, you couldn't find nothing no greater, no better than Joe Louis in his day. Every kid all over the world, every planet Earth know the name Joe Louis. The name Joe Louis is boxing. And with my speed and my style and my record, a fella named Jim Jeffries beat me, who was a slow, flat-footed heavyweight. And if he had beat me in the first or second round, I may say, well, maybe he got lucky that night. But for 15 rounds, he outpointed me. So I imagine the world's slowest heavyweight and the world's fastest. For 15 rounds, he caught up with me, he outpunched me, he outmoved me, and he beat me on points. And if you ask the average white person who's the greatest two fighters ever lived, the average one on the bar, fight fans, Jack Dempsey or Marciano, which is nature. If you ask the Italian, he'll say Benvenuti. You ask the Argentinian, they might have their champion, or the Africans, Dick Tiger. So if you ask the average black man on the streets, who's the greatest fighters ever lived today, they'll either say Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray, or Joe Louis, or Jack Johnson. I mean, a black man. So now, Rocky Marciano and Jack Dempsey ended up the last two fighting for the title. Marciano won, and my lawyer protested and said that this wasn't right. It tainted my image. So Mary Warner said, I got an idea. Why don't you and Marciano get in the ring and box for real? I said, the man's 40-something years old, and it's impossible. He said, well, we will fake the fight. We boxed 70 one-minute rounds, stopping about a half inch from each other's face, not really punching. He put the fake sound in it, then he put the fake blood in it, and he had me to take a knockout. He had Marciano to take a knockout.
That was you then on the screen?
Yeah, yes.
I thought they had gotten people who looked very much like you.
This was me, and they spiced all this together. There were 7 endings. He knocked me out, I knocked him out. He TKO'd me, I TKO'd him. He won a decision. We went into the polls like he was winning and I was losing. He was losing, I was winning, and one draw. And whatever the computer said, they were supposed to spice this together. Like if the computer says Ali comes out with 2 jabs and Marciano ducks, well, they're supposed to have had all this in advance. But the reason I thought this computer thing was phony, because I did the staging. I told Marciano how to move, because by not hitting each other and actually making it look real and stopping the fraction from each other, each punch had to be planned beforehand. So I staged, and one segment, 2 or 3 segments of that phony computer fight, I noticed one round I went for 2 minutes. Another round we did go for 3 minutes. But Marciano was a little heavy, a little tired, so we went a minute at a time.
And to another message, and then we'll have some time after that. Sorry, we'll be right back. I think when you were describing this system that Warner made up about how to computerize a fight, I think you would resent it. And I wonder, can you imagine, Norman, a time when computers will be able to tell us, because there are a limited number of letters on a keyboard, how an author who's quit writing would have written his next novel? Would you resent that? Or is it a stupid question?
It goes worse. It's worse than that because, well, obviously you'd resent it. There's no question of that. But they're going to do it next. People who work with computers have a sort of extraordinary vanity about what the computer can accomplish, and they go on and on with it. And they're pushing to more and more places. I mean, they will finally tell you. A computer will tell you how Don Juan made love.
They can work into the past as well?
Yes, and they will work it out to the point where They will have it connected to an electronic picture graph, so you'll have a movie that will come on that will follow the workings of the computer's mind on how Don Juan made love. Well, I'll tell you about how it'll work. It'll work something like sort of like.
That's how he did it?
The first time the computer comes up with that problem and tries to offer an answer, he will do it that way. They will then take the various feedback that comes in. The point Muhammad Ali was making is who weights the evidence. See, a computer can't think. It can only, it's like the second stomach of the cow.
I like to say another.
It can only, excuse me, it can only regurgitate.
Yeah.
You see, information is fed into it, it regurgitates it, and it re-chews it.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to first get through the first stomach, and the first stomach is the experts. So what the computer is the computer takes the weak brain of the establishment, full of conceptual holes, and then enriches it. You see, it enriches all these holes.
And this way we will get historical love lives laid out.
Well,
on
what you
tape
get,
somewhere.
what you get is you get an extraordinarily elaborated and totally imperfect view of a possible event.
How will it handle the Marquis de Sade?
Cavett, I would never go off the show and say that you were through. That's the first question I've been stopped with in 48 hours.
I won. I've never seen Mailer
They would say,
stop.
you haven't won, but you have brought out my worst side. They would say that the Marquis de Sade was a faggot.
Oh, somebody get me out of here.